Your life in this world, we're told over and over again, will be opposites. And ultimately we realize if we want permanent peace, prosperity, bliss, happiness, we know it won't be found here in the world. We back, mofos, with another episode of the Daily Vedantic, and today's reflection is on the root of all disappointment. The root of all disappointment is mismanaged expectations. You expect someone to arrive at 7 and they get there at 7:18 for your morning coffee before you go to work, and you're disappointed, you're frustrated, you're agitated. Had they told you at 6:45 when it'd be there about 7:20, you would have felt elated that they were a few minutes early. The same events taking place, but completely different mindset and relationship with those events. The root of all disappointment is mismanaged expectations. Something I want you to expect later today. I want you to expect to see a one-sided coin at some point today. The hell am I talking about? A one-sided coin. If I told you to expect to see a one-sided coin, something that is impossible, you'd be sure to be disappointed. The root of all of our disappointment with the world and life comes from mismanaged expectations. But further to that, it's expecting that which could never be. That leads to immense frustration, agitation, and disappointment. In other words, if I told you to expect that which will never occur over and over and over and over and over and over and over, you'd either be eternally disappointed or eternally living in the future instead of here and now saying, oh, it's coming around the corner, around the corner, around the corner, around the corner, down the road. You'd never be able to live here and now if that had some major cosmic importance. We're told that the world, that we can arrange everything in our lives, the world around us perfectly, and we can achieve pure happiness. We're told that you can get there, whatever there is for you, by books, movies, TV shows, and live happily ever after. We're told that. So it's none of our faults to accidentally start to believe it. But happily ever after. You get to that professional milestone, you get that relationship you've been chasing, you get that life, good fortune. When it happens for you, it's going to be living happily ever after, which is a crock of shit. That is the root of all of our disappointment. Is not just the mismanaged expectation, but expecting that which is impossible. How is the world defined in Vedantic terms? The world is opposites. This experience is opposites. Pleasure, pain, joy, sorrow, heat, cold. It is opposites. Doesn't just have opposites and you can kind of just shimmy over to the left and avoid the ones you don't like. The world is opposites. Your life in this world, we're told over and over again, will be opposites. You think you're partaking in joy, it is a womb of sorrow. It will be the thing that gives birth to sorrow down the road. Those 5 drinks on a Friday night will give birth to the sorrow on Saturday morning. Splurging for some epically nice car will present you with immense frustration of driving in a city where it can get nicked and scratched everywhere you park it. I once got a 1960 Volkswagen pickup truck for a company that I run, and I swear to God, it was the only thing I thought about for like 2 weeks. I knew the exact one we wanted to get. We were negotiating back and forth to get a good price. Had it checked out by a mechanic, could not wait, got it that day, parked it in front of our house, and someone driving by said, "Hey, I wouldn't park that here." The day that I got it, I said, "Well, what do you mean?" He goes, "You shouldn't park a truck like that on a street like this." He looked up and down like it was like so obvious to him on the street that we lived on. You can't park a truck like that. I was like, where should I park it? He said, "I don't know, but you can't park it here. People are driving around the city looking for trucks like that. And then they call a friend, and that night it gets stolen." I was like, oh, fuck. I'm going to have to find a parking space for that. I had to find a parking garage 4 blocks away for it. Even in that parking garage, there was a vagrant that started living in the truck, broke into it and started living in the truck. So it wasn't even safe there. It was such a hassle before I was like, all right, I'm done with this. Over this. I've exhausted that desire, thing that I was obsessing about, probably lightly excited about for a year, then 2 weeks leading into finding the right one, really obsessed with. So dumb. Total womb of sorrow. And maybe a total of an hour of joy before I was worried about every nick and scratch, potential theft. Every night, even after that, the vagrant issue was like, am I gonna wake up tomorrow with some other news? Every time I went to go check on it, I was like, what am I gonna find out now? The world is opposites. It is our illusory perception, our buying into some story that it is not, where the story is all good, no bad. Total illusion, total delusion that we participate in, because reality, the world is opposites. So what do we do with this knowledge? Well, we expect what is instead of what isn't. We expect the world to have opposites. Good, bad, heat, cold, pleasure, pain, joy, sorrow. We expect it. When you're going through something that is pleasurable, you just expect, okay, this will end. And when you're going through something that is uncomfortable, is painful, you get to expect that it will end. This too shall pass, as the sages say. Good and bad, pleasure and pain, this too shall pass. You don't get too caught up in the pleasure. In fact, you create some elbow room knowing if I'm just trying to chase pleasure, it's just going to increase this womb of sorrow that will be birthed on the other side of the 3 scoops of ice cream, or the 5 drinks, or the really nice car, or getting partner at the law firm and maybe setting off not a great relationship with your spouse, and the rehabilitation that might be needed on the other side of that. The world is opposites. When we expect it, when we know what the game is, when we expect it, you don't get bummed if you're missing 60% of your 3-pointers, if you know that you're making 40% and that is world class. You don't get bummed with that stat line. You can actually celebrate. You can say, okay, well, now that I know that 40%, missing the majority, but making 40% you're one of the best 3-point shooters in the world. You can calibrate to say, wow, okay, this is pretty good. Or when you know you're at 28, 20%, you want to get to 30, 35, and get to 40, you know the game. Similarly, if you know that there will be pleasure and pain, when you're in the midst of one, you know the other is coming. And you're not stuck in a delusion or a disappointment when One is coming that you were deluded that would never return, or you're hoping would never return. And ultimately we realize if we want permanent peace, prosperity, bliss, happiness, we know it won't be found here in the world. If, and this is a big if you accept this definition of what the world is. If we're under this delusion that no, it can be found here in the world, then we'll pursue that our entire lives with immeasurable frustration and disappointment. But we will pursue it under the delusion that it can be found here. It is here. It is in the material possessions, the pleasure, the comfort that we can arrange in our lives around us. When we're caught in that delusion, in that net, then that is how we'll operate. But when we start to give space, maybe some space to this definition that the world is opposites, this timeless definition within Advaita Vedanta, that this world is and only is opposites, then maybe we create space to start to look elsewhere. Because this philosophy is also clear in stating that there is permanent bliss, happiness, peace. It is possible. In fact, it says it's your natural state, our natural state. But it's not found in the world. It's not found in the mundane. And we will never be able to find it in the mundane. But you can discover it. I wouldn't say find it because it is your natural state. You can discover it. You can discover it. Take the cover off. The ignorance. St. Paul and the scales on his eyes. When our misperceptions fall away and we're able to experience what's really going on, what's really there. And paradoxically, when you settle into these opposites that is this world, when you expect them, you can transcend them. There is no disappointment because every expectation is met. And you transcend the world of opposites. Take the cover, the scales of your eyes off, and you sit into our natural state, which has no opposites, which only is our natural state, Sat Chit Ananda, truth, consciousness, bliss, or as I once heard it, awareness of our being, which is happiness. This might be a lot for anyone to take in if this is your first listen on anything to do with this timeless philosophy. So if that last part is a bit too heavy, maybe just stick to something that might be helpful in wherever you are right now in your spiritual journey, which is trying to expect anything other than opposites in this world will only lead to disappointment. That is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.